Well, welcome to 35 to 1 Roulette Cruising. We've got a strategy that Ken sent over. He wanted me to test it out. It's called complete coverage. It's got a $600 buy-in. Let's see how it goes. So Ken sent me this strategy. He said he had seen it over on Will Vegas's channel, and I think it's called 100% complete coverage. It's a $31 average the way Will sets it up on his channel. There's an issue with the way he has it set up because the table minimums, if you have a $5 table or a $10 table, there's one bet in the whole strategy that you can't do on a regular table, that you have to increase your units. So it's going to be kind of like a unit number bet is kind of how he does it. But let's do something real quick. Let me show you. It's a $31 average. So before I buy in, I'm going to take $31 here, and I'm just showing you the units. Okay. So we're going to take 31 chips here. So there is 31 chips. And so just think of these as units, not necessarily dollar bets. On his channel, of course, it was dollar bets. But here we go. So we've got 1 on the split 0, 0, 0, and then we're going to put 1 unit on all the corners across here. Okay, then we're going to take 4 units. So there's 4 units there on this first column, and then we're going to go 4 units on these streets, double streets across here. And there is our complete coverage bet, strategy, setup, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so the issue with the strategy is that if you're playing on a $5 minimum table, this bet right here, you can't make because it's only 4 units. So on a $5 table, that bet won't be allowed because it's got to have 5 chips. And even if we increased it to a $10 table, that still wouldn't be able to be a $10 bet because of the way the units are broken down here. So the 4 unit bet here, you can't bet it on a real table. So what we have to do is we're going to have to increase the unit size. We're going to increase it to a $5 unit, and then we can play it nearly on any table anywhere. Okay, but the problem is it goes from a $31 bet to a $155 bet. Okay. So you've got to have a pretty good bankroll to cover that for sure. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to buy in for of course more. We're going to buy in for $600. So remember, you got $600 on the table. You see pass card, they'll scan it, give it back to you, and that's how you get your points on the cruise. And we're going to be playing this one with $5 chips. Okay, so here's $600 to the dealer. All right, these red chips are $5 a piece, but I've got $500 here, so there's $600 right there. So now, to set this up, you're going to take $155, and it's going to be 31 chips again, so the same number of units. Remember that. And we're going to go $5 on the split 0, 0, 0, and we're going to hit all of our corners again. And then we got $20 on the first column, and then we're going to go 20 on all the double streets here. All right, and there we go. So now we're completely set up. We have $155 on the table, and the reason for the $600 buy-in is to cover right at 4 bullets. I think we're $20 shy of the 4th bullet. But the way the payout is on this, if it lands on anything between 4 to 31, that is a 5-chip profit. Okay, so I'm not going to rake the table. I'm just going to pay myself 5 chips, which is $25. If it lands on anything between 5, 6, all the way down to 32, 33, that is a 2-chip profit or $10 profit. Now our losses, there's no numbers that are complete loss. You have 0 double 0. If it lands on 0 double 0, that is a 13 chip loss. If it lands on any 1 or 34, that is a 19 chip loss. And if it lands on 2, 3, 35, 36, that is a 22 chip loss. Okay, so those are the numbers. So these streets right here are the ones we do not want to hit. Okay, so we're kind of steering away from those, but everything else, you know, from 4 to 31 across the table are good numbers. So let's spin it out. So we're going to try to go 20 spins with it. I'm not going to rake the table. I might even go 30 spins with it. We're just going to see how fast it goes. I'm not going to rake the table. I'm just going to pay out the bets. I'm going to pay out the losses. And then we're just going to keep moving with it and see how it goes. It's got really good coverage. You don't have any complete bust numbers, but if you have a couple of losses in a row, it does hurt pretty bad. Okay, so let's hope that doesn't happen. All right, so 0, right out the gate. It got us with that 0, so I know 0 double 0 split, we're going to have a loss of 13 chips. So I'm just going to pay those out right here and not rake the table. So there is 13 chips for our loss right there. And here we go. So spin 1 in the books. In the books with a complete loss. Not a complete loss, but a pretty hefty loss right there. 13 chips. That's a pretty good loss, but it's not a complete bust. So we gotta see the positive in it, right? All right, 8. Okay, that is a 2 chip profit. So we're just going to bring those 2 chips back to our rack, and we're going to try to see if we can reclaim that stack of loss right there. All right, there's 20. That's that 2 chip profit. Gonna bring those to our rack. $17, 2 chip profit. All right, 28, that's a good hit. And I mean, that's our jackpot right there. So that 4 to 31 is our jackpot location. That's gonna pay $5 or 5 chip profit there. That's a $25 profit. We'll bring that back to our rack. All right, 11, 2 chip profit. And there we go. We have recovered our loss from earlier. So now we're even. All right, there's 3. So that is a 22 chip loss right there. So there's 20 chips there, 22. I'm just gonna bring those right over here. And now we gotta see if we can recover that with some wins here. $25, that is a 5 chip profit there. All right, 18, that is a 2 chip profit right there. And one thing Will did on his channel is he martingale it. So he went up to doubled it on the loss. So with that loss a minute ago, we should have gone up, but I don't want to do that because we got too much on the table to risk more, right? All right, there's 0. All right, so there it is again, 13 chip loss right there. All right, 13. That's a 5 chip profit right there. $29, that is a 2 chip profit. That's 0 again. That's a 13 chip loss there. 29, that's a 2-chip profit. And 18, another 2-chip profit. All right, 10, that is a 5-chip profit. 29 again, that's a 2-chip profit there. 29 would be our hot number at this point. That's 0 again. So that is a 13-chip loss there. Seems like every time we get going, we hit one of our bust numbers here. And 34, that is a 19-chip loss right there. All right, 6, that is a 2-chip profit. All right, this is spin 21. We're going to go ahead and go to 30 spins with it. We're kind of down some, so now we want to get 10 more spins to try to get a few more points out of it before we're out. And 3. That is one of the worst numbers to hit, so that is a 22-chip loss right there. $29 again. That is a 2-chip profit. All right, 5. Another 2-chip profit. And 10. That's a 5-chip profit. $22, another 5-chip profit. $29 again, a 2-chip profit. $15, 2-chip profit. Double 0. That is a 13-chip loss there. And 35. All right, so that is a 22-chip loss right there. I think that's going to be about all we can go with it. So let me see. So that was, there's 22. Okay. All right, so we're going to pull the plug on it right there. Just paid out our 22 chips for our loss right there. And let's see what we finished with here. All right, so there is the complete coverage strategy that Ken sent over. You know, I had to change it a little bit to make it table friendly, to be honest. You know, unless you can find a dollar table to where you can play those $4 on that column, it's the only way you can play this strategy at a real table. So we had to make it, you know, real table friendly, I guess you could say. We went 29 spins with it. And, you know, even though it's got 100% coverage on it, sounds like it's a great way to play, right? I think we had a bad run on some numbers, for sure. We had several losses. You know, I'd have to go back and count, but it's a bunch. Okay, so, but we finished with $140. So that is a $460 loss over 29 spins. And, you know, we're playing at a $155 average. So, you know, we might have got 450 points, give or take, anywhere between 400 to 450 points for that session. So you're pretty much at $1 a point to play this strategy over that session there of, you know, 30 spins, give or take. Okay, you know, according to the way Will was doing it, he was martingale, and then after, if that one lost, then he would go to a 10 times. So it was a martingale, he doubled it up, and then the next one was actually a 10-time multiplier from his 31. So it went from 31 to 62 to $310. That's what he said. I never saw him go to 310, but I think that's crazy. But you know, hey, that's how the strategy was designed. I figured you might as well just run it a flat bet and just see what happens. No reason to put more at risk, especially with having to play at $5 chips. You know, you're 155, then you're at 310. Okay, do you really want to go up to over $1,000 for your third one? I wouldn't suggest that at all. Probably would run this strategy at the 155 level and just run it through and just go as long as it can go. Maybe that's the way to go with it. But hey, it's something to try. All right, so let's see about ratings. As far as comp value of this strategy, we got $1 a point basically for this strategy, but I do think we had a bad run on some numbers. We hit 0, double 0 probably 6 times during that session. So, you know, that's rare to hit that many zeros and double zeros. So for comp value for this, I don't want to say it's bad, especially if you're playing it at the 155 level. That's really good points. If you can survive 10 spins but didn't get 150 points off of it, it'd be a great strategy, right? So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4. I'm going to give it a 4 anyway, just because it's got really good coverage. I mean, you've got a lot of numbers that are covered here that aren't losses, that are a little bit of win. Nothing big. You know, that's because you got so much covered. That's why there's not a big win. Not really a big jackpot with this strategy. So 4 stars for that, for comp value. Now, profitability for this strategy. Obviously, we weren't profitable with the strategy. So I probably wouldn't play this for profitability. But it does have some chance in there. Maybe if you played 10 spins and you didn't have a loss and you kept getting that $25 win for 10 spins, yeah, it could be profitable, but that's probably not going to happen. So profitability for this one, I'm going to give it a 2. There is a chance there, but highly unlikely. All right, now as far as ease of setup goes for this one, it's not that hard to set up, especially if you're not martingaling, if you're not, you know, bumping it up, if you're not pressing your wins and you're not moving your bets around. Once you put it out a couple of times, I think you kind of know where to put your bets. So as far as ease of setup for this one, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3, because there's a lot of bets that have to happen on this. Maybe on a busy table, it might get kind of complicated to kind of make sure you got everything covered. But 3 stars for ease of setup for this one. But there it is. That is complete coverage sent to me by Ken, which he had seen it over on Will Vegas's channel. And I'll put a link to his channel in the description for you guys. And but anyway, so if you like the strategy, if you didn't like the strategy, just hit like for me and kind of get the video out to more people, and I'd appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe to 35 to 1 Roulette Cruising. And until next time, happy cruising. We'll see y'all. Bye.